What if I told you that holding on to resentment is killing your self-worth? Forgiveness is not about the other person. It's actually about you. And if you're struggling to love yourself, then this could be one of the missing pieces. Let's talk about how letting go is one of the most powerful acts of self-love you'll ever make. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone else off the hook. It's about being able to let yourself be free. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wellness from Scratch. I'm your host, Marissa Jackson, and I hope you're having an amazing day today. So today we're diving into something that can completely transform your self-love journey, and that is forgiveness. We're not going to be talking about, just forgiving others, but also forgiving yourself. I know firsthand how hard it can be to let go of the pain, especially when it feels like someone has hurt you beyond repair, or when you're carrying the weight of your own mistakes. But the truth is, holding on to resentment only keeps you stuck. In this video, we'll talk about why forgiveness is so powerful, how it helps you heal, and practical ways of letting go without losing your boundaries. If you're ready to release the past and step into more love for yourself, let's get into it. Have you ever felt like the weight of the past is holding you back? Maybe it's an old wound, a betrayal, words you can't shake. It's just something that you can't get rid of and you keep thinking about. Forgiveness isn't just remembering what happened. It's about carrying that with you and letting that take space in your heart and your mind. And that burden, it's a lot heavier than we realize. Holding on to past hurts can weigh you down emotionally. When we refuse to forgive, we might think that we're protecting ourselves. It can feel like holding on to resentment is a form of justice, like letting it go is saying that whatever happened is okay. But in reality, we're the ones suffering. Forgiveness doesn't protect you, it traps you. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack full of stones. Each stone represents a past hurt, something someone said to you, something someone did to you, the way someone made you feel. The longer you carry all this stuff, the heavier it becomes. Some people have been carrying this weight for years and maybe even decades. And the truth is, the only way to lighten the load is to unpack the backpack. Ask yourself this: is the pain serving me or is it draining me? Am I reliving the past at the cost of my future? Now let's talk about the impacts of what not forgiving can do to your mental and your physical health. When you are unwilling to forgive whatever the situations happened in your past, it doesn't just affect your emotions. That type of thinking has real physical consequences. Studies have shown that holding on to resentment can lead to having increased stress and anxiety, putting yourself in basically a state of fight or flight constantly, having high blood pressure or chronic heart problems. Having stress in your life constantly like that can take a toll on your heart. We could have a weakened immune system. When we hold on to negative thoughts, our bodies don't work as intended. Holding on to resentment can cause sleeping problems, increased risk of insomnia and fatigue. When you're constantly stressed all the time, you're running yourself thin, and having all those racing thoughts can really make it hard to go to sleep and stay asleep sometimes. When we do not forgive, we end up carrying those burdens into our own relationships with us, into how we speak, respond, or even see ourselves. It's as if you're walking around with an open wound that's never gonna heal, and you just keep picking at it. You're never gonna give it a chance to breathe. Choosing to be resentful and holding on to grudges can create cycles of negativity within our lives in much bigger ways than we think. Because here's the thing about grudges: they do not stay isolated. When we hold on to our past pain, we become hypersensitive to new things that could possibly offend us. Even the smallest little things can set you off because you're so focused on the pain. This can create a cycle. We get hurt, we hold on to the hurt, we engage with others expecting them to hurt us, then we push others away because of that fear of being hurt, and that makes us feel isolated and misunderstood, and then we get hurt again, and on it goes. And this cycle will continue until we make the conscious effort to break it. Forgiveness isn't about excusing someone's actions or just letting them back into your life. It's about choosing your own peace over pain. Some ways you might think about beginning to try to let go. And I know it can be hard. I am currently working on these practices myself in my own life, and if I can do it, I know you guys can too. If forgiveness feels impossible, here are some small ways that might help. The first thing would be to acknowledge that you've been hurt. Acknowledge that you are hurt. Sometimes this, is the most important step because it's the first step in the right direction. You can't heal what you won't face. Name what happened and don't let it define who you are. Practice having compassion for yourself. Write a letter that you don't send. Sometimes expressing feelings through writing that we can't get out vocally can help so much. I have personally done this. I have written down things that I wanted to let go of. This was many years ago, and I decided to light them in a fire. I wrote it in a piece of paper, put it in a fire, and I, in a way, through that act, let the things that I wrote down go. And I've honestly felt a lot more free from those specific things since then. And I actually haven't thought about them until right now, which is, I think, progress. And I don't feel too, brought down by that either. The next thing you could try to do is shifting your perspective and seeing if there's another way for you to look at the situation. You've got to ask yourself questions like, what would letting go of this give me? What would I get in return from not holding on to this anymore? Or think about, where can I put my mental energy instead of thinking about the resentment you're holding towards something or someone or some situation? Is there anything else that's giving me happiness that I could think about in this moment? And I think for me personally, when I am using that practice, everything that usually pulls me out is my daughter. Yeah, I can't think about her without having literally the biggest smile on my face. And the last one I have is really hard because I have struggled with this, and I actually still struggle with this today. And that is letting go of your own expectations of what you think other people are going to do, be, act like, because that's what's really letting you down, is the expectation that this person is not being who you want them to be. And sometimes the hardest part is accepting people for who they are and then moving accordingly from there. You have to remember that you might not get an apology, and you don't need an apology to move on. You just need to move forward and make the choice that you're going to move forward. And please remember that forgiveness is a process, not a single step. It doesn't mean forgetting. It means deciding that your peace is more important than your pain. Amen. Let me say it again. It's deciding that your peace is more important than your pain. Boy, did I have to learn that one the hard way. But she came around. So, if you've been struggling with some resentment and not wanting to forgive a situation, I want you to ask yourself right now, is it maybe time to put it down and think about trying to start letting go? Forgiveness is one of those things we all know that we should do. But when we're feeling hurt, really hurt, that could feel impossible. I want to make one thing clear. Forgiveness is not condoning someone's actions. It's not saying what you did to me was okay. It's not about letting them off the hook. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the weight of the past that is holding you down. Think about a time when you felt deeply hurt by someone. Maybe it was a betrayal, broken trust, or a moment where you felt completely abandoned. When we hold on to our pain, it's like we're carrying a backpack full of heavy bricks. It weighs you down, it drains you, and worst of all, it keeps you connected to the person that hurt you in the first place. Now, imagine taking that backpack off. You instantly feel lighter. That is what forgiveness can do. It doesn't erase what happened, but it allows you to take your control back. over your emotions, your thoughts, and your energy. Forgiveness changes the way you see yourself, other people, and the whole world. It doesn't mean forgetting, but it means like shifting your perspective. Instead of looking at a situation and seeing it as something someone did to you, take your power back and say no. You get to decide that your happiness isn't going to be decided by someone else's wrongdoing. Studies have shown that people who practice forgiveness have less stress, anxiety, and depression. It can also help with sleep, lower your blood pressure, and even help with your immune system. But beyond the physical benefits, having forgiveness can also lead to something much more important, and that is compassion. When you choose forgiveness, you are not just extending grace to other people, but you are extending it to yourself. Maybe you've made mistakes in your own life that you struggle to forgive. It's okay, I've been there. Maybe you're carrying shame or guilt from something that you wish you would have done differently. I know I have. Forgiving yourself is just as important as forgiving others because it allows you to move forward instead of being stuck in the past. So how do we actually forgive when the pain is real and deep? I've got a few ideas that could work. Again, we need to acknowledge the pain. We first have to recognize that there's something that needs to be fixed in order to fix it, because you can't fix what you don't know's broken. You have to acknowledge the hurt and the pain. Don't suppress your emotions. Give yourself the space to process how you feel. Journaling or talking to a trusted friend could help. If it's possible, try to understand the other person's perspective. This doesn't mean excusing what they did, but it means taking a look at trying to understand why they made the choices they did and what, could have potentially led them to that path. Because sometimes when we understand why someone did something, it can help us to detach from the pain or move past it in a small way. You have to make a conscious choice to forgive. You have to choose to let go, and that I'm not going to be angry anymore about this. I've been angry about it for long enough, and I'm going to let go. I got to be honest with you guys. I put these scripts together, and I put the videos together, and, I go through the ideas of what I want to talk about. And sometimes when I'm talking about things, it really hits me hard because, I am really on this journey to try to be better. And that one is one that I struggle with sometimes, for sure, is making the conscious choice to choose to be happy, because I don't know why, but sometimes I think I do choose to not be happy. And I'm working on it, I've acknowledged that, and we're moving forward, and I am definitely more positive than in the past, but there's always room for improvement. But that one just hit me you have to make the choices, because life is literally nothing but choices. From the time you become an adult to the time you die, everything is a choice in your life, and it gets you to one place or another. Okay, anyways, you also need to let go of the need for an apology, because sometimes, you're never going to get that apology. I would beg to say that most times you're probably not going to get an apology. If the person doesn't immediately apologize when you bring it up to them, then, there's a good chance that that is a red flag. They probably won't. Using affirmations are a great way to try and let go and start being more forgiving in our lives. You could say things like, I choose peace. I no longer am holding on to this. Or just something that works for you. I choose peace. I do not choose pain. Whatever makes you happy and really resonates with how you feel. And you can always, seek professional help to work through that in a safe environment. Just make sure you always choose the right therapist for you. Yeah, I think that therapists are much better at working through more complex issues and things like that for people. I think it's always better to seek, have a professional work through the complex things, because they are much more prepared to navigate it if, you're still feeling held on to the resentment, if you've tried all the things on the list up to that point. Because at the end of the day, forgiveness is a gift to yourself. It's about choosing peace over pain and freedom over bitterness. As you step into that space of forgiveness, you'll feel a sense of lightness that no amount of resentment could ever bring you. Self-forgiveness is one of the most powerful yet difficult tools within well-being. It is so easy to get stuck in a cycle of guilt, regret, and self-blame, but the true healing does come when you learn to release the weight and move forward. Let's talk about how to embrace self-forgiveness and why it's essential for well-being. The first step to self-forgiveness is honesty. You have to be real with yourself about the mistakes you've made. We all mess up, we all fall short, and we all wish that in certain situations we would have done things differently. It is really important that we acknowledge those moments, but we don't let them define who we are. Taking responsibility doesn't mean that we have to drown in guilt. It just means that we have to acknowledge what happened, understand why it happened, and commit to growing from the situation. Instead of saying, I ruined everything, say, I made a mistake and I'm going to try to do things differently next time. And one thing that has definitely helped me has been writing about, what I've been going through, how I've been feeling, and really getting it out of just my head. That's the biggest thing, is getting it out of my head and getting it out. When I am writing, it helps me see things differently, or, look at it from a different perspective, or even, kind of think about or see something that I could have missed when I was in this situation. I think that a lot of people today confuse guilt with shame. Guilt says, I did something wrong, but shame says, I am something wrong. Holding on to shame keeps us stuck in the past, and forgiveness is about transformation. Instead of punishing yourself, reframe and make them as stepping stones to a better you. It's a learning process. You can ask yourself questions like, what did I learn from this experience? What do I want to do differently next time? How can I make amends with myself or the other people? And I think that when we shift our mindset from punishing to learning, we open ourselves up to growth and healing. The way that we talk about ourselves matters. If you're constantly replaying your mistakes in your head or being too harsh of a critic to yourself, it's going to be really hard to move forward. Would you talk to your friends the way you talk to yourself? If the answer is no, then I think it's time to change your dialogue. You could try replacing negative thoughts with different affirmations. Say things to yourself like, I am allowed to make mistakes and learn from them. I need to say these because I'm gonna cry. I am not my past. I am my growth. And I deserve love even from myself. You also have to remember to be nice to yourself and have compassion. When negative thoughts pop up, ask yourself something like, would I say this to someone I love? And if the answer is no, stop yourself and reframe the thought. Forgiveness is not just an abstract concept. It is an active daily practice. And I think that's where a lot of people have a misconception about it. They think it just happens. And forgiveness does not just happen. It's like choosing to be healthy, or choosing to eat well, or choosing to go to bed on time. It is a choice, and it is a daily choice at that. And it's a skill that requires effort and intention and consistency. Whether we're learning to forgive ourselves or others, the process is not easy, but it is necessary to be able to move forward in our lives. One of the most powerful steps in forgiving someone, even yourself, is the power of shifting your mindset. Here are a few techniques that can help you shift your mindset. One, as we've talked about before, is acknowledging your feelings, because you can't heal from something you don't think exists. Another would be to practice empathy. Empathy is so powerful when it comes to mindset. And just realizing that we're all just people on earth for the first time. I mean, if that's what you believe, everyone believes. Some people don't believe that. But, another way would be practicing empathy. Practicing empathy doesn't mean that you're forgiving them or saying it's okay, but just trying to understand the situation from another perspective. Because you know what they say, hurt people hurt people. So, most of the time, if someone is acting in these ways, it's because they're feeling hurt. Often people who hurt are usually hurting themselves or even unaware of their own unresolved struggles. And recognizing this can soften the resentment and make space for healing. You could reframe the narrative, and instead of seeing yourself as the victim of something someone else did, and ask yourself how it has made you a stronger or wiser person. Sometimes our most painful experiences are the ones that shape us into the people we're meant to be. And lastly, it would be setting boundaries when you need to. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to forgive someone at a distance, allowing those feelings to be set free, but not necessarily allowing them back into your life. And setting boundaries ensures that you can protect your peace while letting go of the burden of resentment. Many of us are harder on ourselves than we are on other people. We replay past mistakes, judge ourselves so harshly, and carry guilt long after we should have let it go. But self-forgiveness is just as important as forgiving other people. Everyone makes mistakes, and growth comes from recognizing what went wrong and what you would do better in the future. Just recognize that you are human and you don't have to be perfect. Talk to yourself like you would your friends. You gotta let go of the need for perfection. Healing is definitely not a perfect journey, and there are gonna be so many setbacks along the way. And honestly, if you are having setbacks or failures, that means you are succeeding, because nobody just succeeds. Maybe the outliers, but I think for the rest of us, the journey to healing is bumpy and very uneven. Learning to accept ourselves is such a huge step in self-forgiveness. And it's important to remember that forgiveness doesn't just happen overnight, and it's not a one-time decision. It's a journey and a consistent effort that takes choices every day. You got to give yourself permission to take time. It's okay if it's hard at first. That's okay. If you keep doing it, it will get easier. I promise you that. Some days forgiveness might feel easy, and other days the old wounds might resurface. That is normal, and healing happens in layers. It's okay to revisit your emotions and work through them. Another way of implementing forgiveness in an ongoing process would be to practice meditation or visualization. A simple yet effective practice would be to visualize yourself releasing the pain. Imagine putting your guilt or resentment or negative feelings into a balloon and watching it drift away into the distance. You might not feel relief instantly, but over time the practice could definitely become something that gives you peace. And make sure you celebrate your progress, because every small win is still a win nonetheless, and it deserves to be cherished and celebrated. If you're in a situation and you reacted with patience instead of anger, that's a huge win. If you feel a little bit lighter than yesterday, that's also progress. Forgiveness is not about achieving the perfect state of peace. It's about making consistent, intentional choices that release yourself from emotional pain. Ultimately, forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about you. It's about reclaiming your peace and choosing love over bitterness and making room for joy in your life. When you choose forgiveness, you choose freedom. I want you guys to know that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It is one of the most powerful things you can do. It takes real strength to release the resentment, especially when we've been hurt really badly by someone. At the end of the day, I know that you're strong enough to let the things in your life that have been holding you back go and be the person that you really want to be. Forgiveness is about setting yourself free. It's about choosing peace over pain and refusing to let the past control your future. It doesn't mean forgetting, and it definitely doesn't mean letting toxic people back into your life. It means taking your power back, because you deserve to live with joy, not resentment. Let me know down in the comments below what ways you guys are planning to implement mindfulness and work on practicing forgiveness in your life. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of Wellness from Scratch. If this episode has resonated with you and you want to learn how to build better, healthier relationships, I'll see you in this video right here. Okay, guys? I'll see you over there. Bye.